Hey guys, welcome to Cosmic VFX. Today on the show, I'm going to show you how to do a shark attack, which looks like this.
Damn, it's shifty.
Whoa! Whoa, so scary, so real. This is actually something I made for a web series that I did over the summer called Pool Boys. You can watch it on my main channel at Cosmic Nation. This is where I post all the videos that go with these tutorials. So subscribe there if you want to support me and my ego. Alright, so let's just jump right in. So I started off in Premiere. What I'm actually going to do is take this into Cinema 4D, where we're going to animate the shark and then bring it into After Effects and use Element 3D to pinpoint everything. But you could skip the Cinema 4D step if you don't have it. I'll put a link in the description for a model of the shark and the animation of the shark. So you could just import the OBJ sequence yourself and not even have to open Cinema 4D. But I'm just going to show you the whole process regardless in case your scene doesn't look like this. So we start out with the raw footage. If I play it now, you can see it looks over and jumps. That's as much as I use in the edit. So I don't want to use any more and waste time animating. So from there, I'm just going to export this as a JPEG sequence. Again, you could skip this step if you're just going straight to After Effects. You could do the thing where you right-click and then do replace with After Effects composition, and that'll just get you right there. But for those of you who do have Cinema 4D, you go to File, Export, Media. I'm going to export it as a JPEG sequence. And then we're just going to make sure that we use maximum render quality and that our frame rate matches what we shot in, okay? And then you press export. So once this is exported, you're going to come into Cinema 4D. Let's create a new material. This material is going to be the background of what we're seeing, so we get some reference here. Let's open the first clip of the sequence that we just exported. Let's go into the settings of this and then press animation in this tab over here, and then press calculate. So we have 0 to 84 frames. That looks good. Alright, so now that we have this, we can exit out of here. Let's create a new background and then apply the material to the background, and you can see that we have our video. Now you'll see when you press play, it doesn't play along with it, but if you hit the render, it goes to that frame. So if I go to the end, you'll see that it's the end frame. That's a good way of just eyeballing it. Since we're not doing everything in Cinema 4D, this part isn't as important. Alright, so for now we could just turn off the background. And what we're going to do is import the model. So let's File, Merge Objects, and then we'll go to wherever we save the model, which is, how organized am I? Okay, great. So here is the shark model that I'm going to use. I'm just going to import that right away. It's pretty small. So I can go over to the coordinates, just make it bigger, I guess, for now. You don't have to make it, it doesn't really matter what size it is for this specific instance. This is good enough. We could just bring in the camera there. Alright, so we could see the shark here. Now what we're actually going to want to do is put some textures on it. So let's go over here. We have teeth is spelled wrong. That's nice. Okay, so we'll go over to the great white shark material. We'll open it up. We'll go to the color. We'll go to the texture. And again, where did I save this? This is all in the description, by the way. Texture. All right, great white shark. Which one? Let's try this one. Yeah, it looks great. Okay. So we're just going to do this for a couple things. So the normal channel, I believe it comes with. Let's see. Yeah, it does. Great. No. Alright, great. So we got that. Now let's go into the teeth. Open up the teeth material. Alright, I'll do this fast so you get to the point. Go to texture, teeth. Is that? Oh no, that's teeth. There we go. No. Alright. And then we want the normal again. So basically I'm just putting all of the materials onto the proper place. One more to do. Come on, almost there. Where is it? There's his eye. No. And then let's do the normal again. Alright, so now we have it all texture. And it's looking great. This is what our shark's gonna look like. Cool, very cool. Alright, so now that we have that, it's time to animate him. So, right now he's just an OBJ, so you can really just do that. But what we want to do is actually rig the shark. So now we're going to make sure we have the shark selected. We're going to go over to our character tab and then click character. Here under template, we go from advanced biped to fish. And then you'll see this thing that says components, spine. We want to change that to IK, which stands for inverse kinematics. And you'll see that spine pops up. And now we'll just start adding components to the shark. Like what bones does the shark have? So we want to add a fin, of course. We want to add another fin, by the way. So now he has two fins. You can see where those will go. Let's go back to the spine. We want to add a tail. So we do that. IK. Great. All of these are going to be IK. So we'll go back to the spine. We'll add a dorsal fin. Has that too. And then we'll add a jaw. So you can see that this will be the skeleton of the shark. So now all we really have to do is match it up and make sure it fits inside the mesh. Now I think the best way to do that would be to go to a different view like this. Side view, for example. Let's click on the spine and then you just go down to adjust. And now you could click on individual points, move them around so they fit the model. What I'm going to do first is press the scale tool. Whoops, make sure you have more than one point selected. I'll just select the whole spine again. Scale tool, and then you can scale it up. So you want to do this so it pretty much fits your shark. You can see that's where the tail's going to be. Maybe we could scale it up even more. This is always, you're always able to change this afterwards. So I'm going to fit everything to where it needs to be, and then we'll be right back to the tutorial. So now we have a fully rigged model, and it is time to move on to animating. You can see all the bones fit in there perfectly. Great. Sharks love bones. It's a line from the show. You should watch it. I should stop promoting myself now. Alright, so let's go into the character tab again. We'll see nothing is in the object section, which means that the shark is actually not bound to it yet. So we actually want to turn this into its own mesh. So we're going to select children, right click, connect objects plus delete. Now it's all one object. Go back into the character tab where it says binding and just throw a shark in there. So now if we have the character tab selected and go to animate and then press play, you can see it animates. Wow, that was so easy. And the cool thing about this is that's thanks to the to selecting IK in inverse kinematics in the editor. FK would make it very rigid. Google it. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. Okay? Jeez, what do you want from me? Alright, so next thing to do is just to animate the path of where it's swimming. So we have this. Oh, before I do that, if you go into the character tab and select spine, and then we're usually under object. If you go to controls, you can actually change the speed at which he swims. So if you want to do something really ridiculous, you can just turn it really fast. And that's great. It's good. It's fantastic. But probably don't want to do that. So keep it back to where it was, and you'll be good to go. You can change the nose wiggle too. Pretty cool. Alright. So let's just say that's what we want for now. Now we just need to animate the path of the shark coming into frame. Alright, let's get this shark swimming. Give my friend Sean a little scare. A little spook. Alright, well, I'm going to show you how to do that now. So first thing I actually want to do is create a camera and put it at a view in which I like. So this works, I guess. You can match the plane up with the water if you want. That's not what I did, but I guess it could be smart. So yeah, let's do that. The grid somewhat matches up with the water, yeah. Alright, that doesn't matter too much. So we have this, we're going to keep our camera there. Let's click on the character. We go to display, and then we can see the object manager down here, components, component hierarchy, controllers. We want to pick controllers. And now, when we pick controllers, you will see that we have these controllers. Thank God. So this will actually enable us to keyframe things. So we can move this master controller over here. Click the arrow tool. We're going to start him back a little further. Have him off screen. Now, let's hit a keyframe there. Beautiful, a keyframe showing up. We'll go to 60 or something. Let me get out of this view a little bit. Don't want to move my camera. Let's move him forward. Go back into the view. So he'll move forward like this, and he'll rotate a bit, like that. Then he'll come forward this way, and try to scare Sean. So this is a very hastily edited thing, but if you play it through now, you'll see him swim up and go there. So essentially what I did was I added this. Maybe I went over here, had him come up a little bit as if he's breaching the water. You know, angle up like this. And then finish down as he splashes down. And then comes forward even more. That's essentially how I animated this. That's just a very hastily done. It's going to look awful. So, you get the gist of that. Let me polish this up before I continue on with this. Just give me a second. Alright, so I polished it up and made it look much better. Here's what it looks like now. Very similar to what the final product looks like. One other thing I did is in the materials, I actually went into the reflectance of the skin and turned it up to make it look like the shark is wet. But don't worry about the materials too much because we're actually going to be dealing with that in Element 3D. So once you finally have it animated like this, pretty much good for export. One more thing that I might do is add a subdivision surface to this particular model because it is not the best. You could see the difference that makes if you just, here, if I turn that off, shouldn't do that. So this is it without, and then if I put it on, it sort of just adds more polygon, subdivides, and makes it look prettier. So now I have this. We got to export it. Two ways of doing this. You could actually export it like this and composite it in Cinema 4D, but that's not what I did. I wanted more control. I meant composite inside of After Effects. What I actually do is I'm going to export this as an OBJ sequence. So then I could import it to After Effects. Got it right that time. So I could import it into After Effects and then edit the model further, or the animation, I should say, using Element 3D. So the way I do that is I have a specific plugin for it. If you go to Plugins, Steadybake, that's the plugin I use. In Steadybake, you could export it as an OBJ sequence. I actually have a link to a tutorial on how to do that in the description. You don't have to use Steadybake, because I actually think that was a trial that ran out for me. I also know there's a script that you could load into Cinema 4D that will export an OBJ sequence as well. I will put all the info I have on that down in the description if you want to know how to do it. So let me get this sequence exported, or I believe I already do, and then I will meet you inside of After Effects for the rest of this tutorial. Alright, so we're back in After Effects. You can see here I have added a couple of things. I will go over what everything is, don't worry. It's just for time's sake. You can see I have dropped in the shark in an Element 3D layer. If you don't know what Element 3D is, it's a plugin by Video Copilot. I use it all the time. Highly suggest getting it. So again, I literally just imported the clip that I had. Oops. I just imported the clip that I had. So I have that, created a camera, and then a new element layer, which is this shark if you want to see it. If you want to just look at that, one thing that you're going to have to do when you import the OBJ sequence is probably reconnect the textures. All you have to do that is go into the material option here and then plug back in the diffuse and the normal bump textures. Very similar to how we did it in Cinema 4D. And then the other thing to make sure is you have the physical shader on. For me, when you increase the, where is it? That's the eye. Or are they all the eye? Regardless, the physical shader will make things look more glossy. And it makes it look like the shark is wet. Which is a good thing, considering it's in the water. Alright, so once you import it into Element 3D and place it to where you want to get it, we got to start making this shark look like it's underwater. So I'll take you through the layers and effects that achieve that. So if you go over to the effects, you can see I've added the curves. The curves alone made it look like it's underwater. So all I did in there was I went through the individual channels, the red, green, and blue, and just shifted them around until I got a color that would match the water. The next thing I would do, since the shark is underwater, is that I added a little blur. It's very faint. I added 0.4 because it wouldn't be in perfect focus. Also, anytime you're compositing something that's CG, you do want to add a little blur to it so it's not perfect. Alright, now I added levels, which barely does anything, but if you can see it, sort of matches it just a little bit better. Then I added a vector blur, CC vector blur. You'll see the big difference this makes. Or maybe not so much difference at all. Regardless, that is to replicate what the water displacement looks like. So if I bump this up, you could see you sort of almost get that blur that you get when you're looking at the bottom of a pool when the light's shining through it. So I just have that on ever so slightly, and then the last thing is turbulent displace, which I animate the evolution of. So now you see like it looks like it's underwater. And again, if you're moving this parameter, it sort of looks like the surface of the water is moving, which is great. Let me just undo that. Alright, so now we get the shark looking like it's underwater. But the problem is, it doesn't look like it ever exits the water. So the next thing that I did, it's actually a cool little trick. If you go, you duplicate the element layer. So duplicate this layer, and you get this element layer. And now you'll see that the way I have it set up, let me turn off these effects. The way I have it set up is that the shark actually comes out and it's reflecting. Now how did I do that? Let's go into the element settings. So I actually have two things going on right now. You have the shark right here, and then you have a plane model. Now what the plane model does, which is really cool, is I have it set as a mirror surface. If you go to reflect mode and then go to mode mirror surface, it will reflect what is above it, which is this shark. So again, go to the mirror, you create a new plane. You can just go create plane there. It'll create the plane. Then make sure you have mode mirror surface on. Enable multi-object, yes. Make sure that's checked too. You could go into the advanced tab. I just want to make sure I didn't change anything else. Yeah, mirror surface, that's what you want. Surface options, great. Yeah. So that's really all you have to do. So now, when I press OK, you can see that this layer by itself actually looks like this. You have the plane, and you have the shark. And you can't see under it, that's why I put it over this layer. It's actually just covering this layer. So you can still see a little bit of the edge there, but it's moving fast, so you won't be able to tell. Oh, another thing I did was I added a displacement to the plane. So I believe you do that in the Let me just double check. I believe you do that in it was in group 3 is where that was. Where did I do that? Particle look, deform, and then you have noise. And you could see here I had animated the evolution of the noise. So if you go back to here, and I press U on the keyboard so I could see my keyframes, you could see that I had animated the surface of the water because the water in my pool wasn't still. So you could see the difference it does there. It makes it actually look like water, which is really cool. And you're getting the reflections of the shark, so that looks great. Again, let me undo that. Alright, so on top of that, now we just got to add some things. I'm going to add some curves to make sure it's matching the color of the scene. Again, if you want to see that, I played with the RGB values and then into the individual channels. Next thing I added was another levels corrector, just to brighten it up a bit, it seems. And then I added, of course, a camera lens blur, because nothing that's CG should look perfect when you're blending it with live footage. So now we get this. Get him coming out of the water. You see the reflection and everything. And he plops back down. So there's really only one more thing we need to add here to make this look cool, and that is some water splashes. Oh, actually, before we add that in, I'm going to show you a really cool trick that I actually learned from Action Movie Dad, great YouTube channel. Really fun stuff. Duplicate your element layer again, and you'll see that if I turn this one on, you have this really cool depth map. And you can actually use this to composite the splashes so that it looks like the shark's coming through them and they're not just a solid layer. Now I'll show you how to do this real quick. This is super simple. You just go into Element, you go to Output right here, you go to Output and change Show to World Position. Because if you go to a different one, it'll just look like that. You want to show World Position. Everything will turn black and white, and then you just go into the World Position output and then adjust it so that it fits your model. So you might have to play around with these settings a bit. You could see that I had to change the X and Y rotation, so I actually did get a depth map, but you just got to play around with it so you can make it look like about right here is when the shark starts to come out of the water. So that's when I wanted the depth map to start, because that's when he's going to be in front of the water, the splashes. So that made it nice and easy for me to create an easy depth map. It's a really cool trick that he does in one of his tutorials. I believe it's the arcade machine tutorial, if you wanna get a better explanation. One more thing really quick before I add in the splashes is that I had to shoot this handheld because I couldn't put a tripod in the pool. So what I ended up doing was just, since the camera doesn't orbit in 3D space, I just did a quick 2D track. You can see it on the null right here. And then I just applied that position data to the element layers, and I will apply it to also the splash layers. Alright, so now it's time to add in the splashes, and I personally get mine from ActionVFX.com. They have an amazing selection of VFX stock elements, as you can see here. They just released a new water pack. I'm using the ones from the water splashes. You can see them all here. They're really cool. They don't leave the frame, and they're just perfect for this kind of thing. I'm going to use a combination of the water splashes and the small water hits, I believe. Here's what those look like. So yeah, definitely check out this website. They have great stuff. Not paying me to say this, I promise. But yeah, so let's go into our project. Alright, so let's see generally where we want the splashes to start. He starts breaching the water there. Go into my project. I have my splashes. You can drag it in. I'll keep them on the top for now. And I'm probably going to have to scale this back because this is a 4K file. So the first thing that breaches is that fin. Let's do that. And again, I'm going to parent this to the null, the tracked null, so it doesn't move around. So you can see we're starting to get some good splashes. Alright, so one important thing to do now is just line up all your splashes so that they look good. So I'll just drag in a couple more. Where's the next splash? Let's scale this one down to 23, was a good size before. So he also, this part of his head breaches the water next. So I'll do one there. Alright. And I'm just doing this real fast so you get the idea. So once, I'm going to put a couple more of these just around the shark, and then I'll be right back and show you how to use the depth mat to sell the effect even more. Alright, so I placed the splashes where I want them to be when I finish, and it's looking pretty good by Jaws compared to Jaws 3D. So, you know, that's a success in my book. Alright, I'm going to show you how to put that depth map to use. So we're actually going to take our element layer. I'm going to show you an example using only one splash, just so you can get a better look. So we have this splash, and he never really crosses in front of it. So what we're going to want to do is, let's go to here, for example. We're going to click on our layer, make sure that our element layer is above it, and then we're going to go from track matte. We're going to go to track matte and then select Luma inverted matte. And you'll see now he passes through the water, which is really cool. And it fades too. It's not a very sharp line. It's exactly what we want. One important thing when doing this, though, is that you can tell he sort of passes through too early, and it looks weird. I sort of want him to pass through there. So what we can do is turn back on this layer, go to the world output again, and just mess around with that. So let's go to, let's see, position Z. Let's see if that will get us what we want. I think it will. It's great. So now if we turn this back off, you can see now he's starting to pass through it right when we want it. And that's when this splash will come up and cover it. So now let's take a look if we get what we like. And you can see that this small splash in the back is still over where we want it. So I just placed it behind this element layer. Alright. Great. That's looking pretty cool. And so what you're going to want to do is just keep stacking these water splashes until you get, you hide like this seam right here, that it's a perfect line. That's not what water would look like. So yeah, it's just a matter of stacking layers and layers and layers. Another thing that might be fun is adding a splash effect to the camera. But otherwise, this is looking pretty good. I think the only other thing that I did in the final version is I used some motion blur. So I use a plugin called Real Smart Motion Blur, but you could also use CC Force Motion Blur, and I actually use that on the water because I think they shoot the water at, I could be wrong, but I think they shoot the water at a higher frame rate, so you have the option to slow it down in post. Let's see. But if you add the motion blur to it, you can get a better result. Well, and then you'd want to increase the motion blur samples so it's not, doesn't look like duplicates. I'm not going to do that for this. Again, I'd actually suggest Real Smart Motion Blur. It makes everything look better. Alright, that pretty much concludes the tutorial. I hope you liked it. If you have any questions, just leave a comment below and I will answer you. Again, this was an excerpt from my main channel, Cosmic Nation. Check it out there if you want to see the full web series that this was created for. I do a lot of tutorials for effects that you'll see there. So show some love there if you want. And thanks for watching. Have a good day. Have a good life. Merry Christmas. Happy Thanksgiving. And okay, I gotta end this before